My name is Jim McCullers, WA4CWI. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm also a member of the AMSAT engineering team. I've been a professional programmer all of my career, working on operating systems and communications. I'm also the author of a app called SIGTRAC, which is used by the RF locator guys, fox hunting. And it's sort of used around the world. And the reason I included it is just wanted to let you know that I've got a background into working in amateur radio areas. Below is something that I cannot believe survived through history, and it's a copy of my novice license. And there is no reason that should exist, but it does. But it does show that I was officially licensed in September of 1961, which, if you want to do the math, you know, it's easy. I can't avoid it, okay?
You were 5 years old.
Yeah, I was 5 years old. Oh, younger than that. But the interesting thing about that is 3 months later, Oscar I was launched in December of 1961. And I can recall, as a kid, being in ARRL, getting QST, and reading all of the articles about Oscar I and satellites and EME. And as a young kid, it was like, I got to do that. Well, it took a lifetime, but here I am, okay? So, very interesting is these are two QSTs that I came up with in January of '62 and February of '62. If you ever get the chance, would like to read up on Oscar I. They're very good presentations of what went on then. And, one of the things they did not talk about in the articles was how they tracked the satellites at that time. I know they were using radar because one of those facilities was near my hometown. But for amateur radios in the early days, tracking the satellites had to be most interesting. So I ran through and was, with the help of a couple of people that are here, came up with some of the earlier satellite tracking programs. And these are back in the beginning of history. I love Oscar Locator because it is the beginning of a graphic approach to be able to visualize an orbit. And you see a lot of different names there, and there were a lot more, and there's several duplicates on each one. All were based later on the element of the TLA, the two-line element, which came out in the 60s and 70s. Now, satellite tracking requirements: one, you need information, operation, and then the result of that, obviously, is your communication. Information along the lines of what's the name of the satellite, where's the satellite, where's the location of the satellite, the paths of the satellite, the communications tracks. Operation is how do you control your radar, your radio, and how do you control the rotors? Early days, it was all manual. It was 6 hands all going at one time. So it must have been very interesting. But as time progressed, more satellite programs came out. Whoops, got ahead. When I got in, after experience in programming, experience in working with mobile devices, when I got into doing satellites, I wasn't happy with some of the software that I found because I thought it was a little bit too cumbersome to use. It didn't fit my needs. I was always having to get another third piece of information in to do the satellite. So I was a bit frustrated, and the mind says, there's got to be a better way. And then one day I said those famous words, how difficult could this be? I forgot space is hard. Anyway, after several years of effort and the help of some very nice people in this room, able to give you the introduction of OsTrax, as I call it. Others have called it OsTrax. I really don't have an argument. Orbiting satellite tracking for the next generation, which I believe is going to be a new generation of satellite tracking programs that solve some of the problems of what we've seen in the past. And this is a working screen, okay? And we'll be talking about several different elements on the screen as we go along. But the presentation is new. It fits the modern paradigm of what software should be, what a desktop system should be. And I believe you're going to find it's far simpler to use with far more information and far more ways to get to the information. Speaking of information, of course, to get anything done, we've got to know where the satellite is. Today, we use Keplerian elements, or KEPs, from AMSAT or OsTrax, and in OsTrax, you can define your own. If you have a satellite that just hasn't been put into the system yet, or if there's an error, it does happen in the KEP files on occasion. Keplerian files are automatically updated. As a user, you set a parameter that says every so many hours I want you to go out and check the KEPs. When the KEPs come up, it pops a flag up that we'll see a little bit later that tells you, hey, you want to go update your KEPs, somebody has changed something. The same thing, satellite profiles, no more manually entering satellite information and trying to get everything in order and keeping up with it. OsTrax will maintain a repository that has all of the satellite information, and that satellite information is updated just like the Keplerian files. If a change is made to that repository, the next time your program checks for changes, it will flag it and you can go and update it. And that would be like if frequencies change or if a new satellite comes into orbit and we get the comm links and everything defined for it. Same update process as the KEPs. This is just highlighting some of the features, and I'm pointing out controls. All controls for operating the radios, operating the satellite passes are well defined. They are also giving indications if the control is pressed or not, activity indications. And they're laid out in several different areas we'll discuss in a minute. At the very top, you will see there are some bars. These are the dynamic elements, things that help you know where you are in the current satellite pass, to give you a little indication that if you better start wrapping things up or you're about to lose the satellite, or where the position of the satellite may be in the sky. The system is broken into basically 5 different areas, okay? And we're just going to step through those very quickly. I broke them out just so you would get an understanding of what they are. And we'll start with the pretty stuff, which is the satellite tracking map. As opposed to some of the maps which try to show the curvature of the Earth, I decided and I settled on a flat Mercator projection, which is now common in websites and mobile apps. So everyone is more familiar with it. I like it a lot better because it shows the satellite track a lot cleaner, okay? Also, the satellite footprint doesn't get distorted trying to cope. There's no such thing as a perfect projection of a globe or a sphere onto a flat surface. So the Mercator is just one of those. It has become very popular. You will also notice that the satellite track is showing in different colors. Those different colors indicate the position of the satellite within the pass. Red is the distance behind the satellite, or the path behind the satellite. The green section that you'll see shows the active part. This is where the pass is visible to you. And the orange, or kind of amber, shows where the satellite is, the path is going next. Now, to those who may have red-green color vision, there is an optional parameter that you can change that. and you can change the colors, and we're still working to define all of those colors and those transitions. At the very top, this is the information area. This gives you current times very upfront, so that if you're trying to do your manual logging, you don't have to go looking for the clock, both local time and UTC. And then you've got the satellite position indicator, which gives the current azimuth, elevation, the max elevation, and then the countdown clock. Prior to a satellite getting to AOS, it is counting down the number of minutes or seconds, hours, whatever, to AOS. Once it goes AOS, it changes and counts down to LOS, so you'll know how much longer you have left in the satellite pass. Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I'm standing too close. I've been looking at these slides from across the room. The top two, the top and the bottom, are control sessions, okay? The top presents a menu system, which is common for just about all apps now. Information in the middle that shows what we call the current ground station name and also grid square. And there's also an information area over onto the right of that. The bottom are hardware controls to control if you need to connect or disconnect the radio or the rotor, or if the USB cable unplugs and you need to reconnect back in. So those are the control areas. And then starting with the menu systems, the very first is the preference. And you'll notice on the preferences, we have general preferences, the map, which controls the physical characteristics of the map, the pass, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, radio and rotor options, and then Doppler, to be able to set your Doppler changes by modulation type, like sideband or CW FM. Two parameters on those sets, how often is checked, and then the delta that is checked before it decides to update the Doppler. So as you're going along, you can adjust the Doppler numbers as you wish. Now I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Okay. There we go. Okay, I want to give this just a little bit of an illustration of what you can do with the preference changes. And we're going to make a few changes here. We're going to go up, open preferences. We're going to turn on visual icons. We're going to change the map to gray, make the pass wider, add a couple of footprints for locations of our friends, and turn on the day-night terminator, and there you go. The system has reconfigured itself to meet whatever your operating requirements might be at the time. Also, you'll notice over on the far right, those are the visual icons. Again, it is an aid to those that might not have a little problem seeing different colors or might want a little bit more visual recognition of what's going on the system. Again, it's all optional. Okay, there we go. Whoops. Oh, okay. The next one we're showing, this is the CAPS. And in the CAPS, we have something called Pass Predict, and I'll talk about that later. Status, and also the ability to update the CAPS and enter user CAPS or user communication links. Like I said, we define communication links. We can miss one, or you may have a new satellite that comes up with a new link and you want to add it in, or something about a satellite you want to track that maybe is not amateur related. That can be entered with the CAPS. You will notice up in the upper right-hand corner, CAP update available. Okay? That means the system has gone out and checked, and there's a CAP or a satellite profile update available. And this gives you the opportunity to, once again, show exactly how that operation works. Whoops. Let's see. There we go. I'm sorry, I went the wrong direction. Go up to the KEPs. We're going to check the status. We see OsTrax needs to be updated. Come down to do an update. You'll notice the notification goes away and the KEPs have been updated for OsTrax. There's also a way to force every update, and you can go up and double click. You didn't have to go to that status. That's just another feature that I thought it would be easier to demonstrate here. Again, on tracking, we can track the sun, the moon, satellites, and also user tracking, which is a diagnostic tool that might not be used by everyone, but it allows you to manually step through the paths of a satellite. If you were doing experimental work, trying to determine the orbit of a satellite or something is going wrong. But those are, again, just the options. The left-hand panel is the device panel. All of the devices are in the left-hand side, including the satellite, the radio, and the rotor, pardon me. And each one of those has its own controls available. This is how you select a radio. You go up to the settings, collect radio selection, 2 radios available, 1 or 2. You come out and you pick out the radio, define the comlink, define the baud rate, and then the system reconfigures for whatever radio that you selected. These are the radios that have been tested. Okay? Just about everything that's satellite related, some that are not. Radios without satellite mode can be selected as transmit only or receive only. As a safety prevention to keep someone from trying to do full duplex on a half duplex radio. It will get updated, but quite often it will change frequencies where you don't want it to be changed if the Doppler occurs with the transmit button down. So the system restricts that. On the rotors, the same thing. You have the capability of selecting a rotor. Also, you set up the comlink to it. Everything is done in OsTrax with comlinks. And also, you can define the characteristics of the rotor, okay? And how you want it centered, the rotation, maximum degrees, maximum elevation, or anything like that. Obviously, you have to know something about the rotor before you define it. And these are the list of the rotors that have been defined. Just about all of the rotors, and I've tested with each and every one of these. So there have been some hours playing with different rotors to make sure everything is working correctly. Just to let you know, I have been using pieces of this for 3 years in my own shack, even down to when I was hammering in some of the definitions before that got started. So a lot of hours have been spent. Okay. Over on the right-hand side is the pass. Everything in OsTrax is based on a pass. And what a pass is obviously when the satellite is passing over your ground station, okay? What you can do with OsTrax, and sorry about that, and the passes, is you define satellites that you are interested in. Then the system lists the passes for a given time period. It automatically segues it through those passes. And you can use or control that with the controls if you want to skip a satellite, or if you want to extend the pass on a satellite, or in the cases of people that have been using for telemetry, you just configure the entire thing with one satellite, turn it on, and it will track every pass of that satellite to gather telemetry. So those definitions, again, are user definitions. The top section is what we call the current pass. This is the guy that's highlighted in green, okay? That is all of the satellite information, the current orbit information for the satellite, Also lists the current communication link that is active for that satellite, which can be changed. What we're going to do here is show a little bit of a demonstration of a satellite making a transition from not active to active. If you look up at AOS, it says they're 2 minutes and 8 seconds until the satellite goes to AOS. You can define a parameter that's AOS pre-start that says this many minutes before AOS, I want you to start tracking the satellite and moving the rotor. That way the rotor has a chance to get in position, be at the satellite by the time. Now on this case, I'm using 2 minutes as my rotor tends to be slow, and I've gotten accustomed to doing that. So watch what happens up in the column upper right-hand side where it says AOS. As it counts down, okay, it transitioned, and never do a demo. Rule 1, never do a demo. That was supposed to move over to, well, I'm sorry, I've forgotten this slide. I apologize. Let's roll it again. Okay. What we're going to see is that when it transitions, the radio side comes alive. And the rotor, okay? And the device sides come alive. When there's no pass going on, this side will essentially be dark, just to let you know there's nothing happening. But you can run the system in a continuous mode. Okay? Again, we're going to show a quick video. This is what happens at the end of a pass. We've got a few seconds left, and now we're going to extend the pass. Okay? Here we go. When the pass ends, we just bought ourselves another 3 minutes, and that is another optional feature. And that's useful for that pass that, okay, the pass is over, but oh my gosh, signals are still coming in. I want to stay here for a while. And there's also a delay parameter at the end of a pass that that will say how long the pass remains. Okay, this is an example of being able to change the communication link during the process. This is the comm link that's active. We're going to come over. We're going to change the comm link, change the definition to beacon, and you'll notice that the radio gets reconfigured now and is receiving the beacon. And then we'll go back and we'll recheck it. We'll change it back, and then it reconfigures the radio. So it's instantaneous. And it shows there's a status area down here that shows the comm link has changed. Okay, we talked about upcoming passes. Here are the passes. These are by definition. You can define a ground station, and under the ground station, you can decide any number of ground stations, and then under the ground stations, any number of satellite groups. Okay, so that gives you that definition. And then this is going to illustrate how to delete a satellite out of the satellite group. We're deleting both of the HAIDs, SO124, 125. You will notice they're now gone out of the group. And just for the heck of it, we'll go back and we'll put them back in just to show you how quick. Up here, there is a wildcard, so you don't have to know exactly how to spell it. Now they're back in the satellite pass. And so you can add or define passes as you go along. For the sake of, I'm getting signaled I'm running short on time, and I knew this would happen. Additional features, and there are more controls on the pass that I'll be able to talk to you or be glad to talk to you about it. Here's some additional features. Contact logging. It will automatically set up a log. We began, except I did forget there's one more thing. OsTrax is available, will be available for all 3 operating platforms, and it will have the same user interface for all 3 major platforms. Windows, Mac OS, and Ubuntu Intel. That's as far as it's stretched out. And we'll have to do some research into that because I'm not sure exactly where the limits are on the base system. So yeah, Burns, I will look into that. Okay, I got the message. Anyway, introducing OsTrax, orbital satellite tracking for the next generation, coming to your space soon. It's in the final stages of development. We're going through and just running punch lists now, getting ready for marketing. I will say the 3 different operating systems, each will be sold separately. We're also working on pricing at the moment. Hopefully for the availability is going to be the very first of the year, and we'll be putting that on the AMSAT bulletin board or in the journal. I would like to say thanks to a whole bunch of people in here that I won't call out by name who loaned equipment, gave me advice, punished me on occasion, and have become great friends. Also, I am looking for a few more beta testers if you're interested. I need some people that really do a lot of operating to help me wring out some of the final bits and pieces. So, any questions?
Would you consider Raspberry Pi?
I'm not sure if this system, the base system, will run on Raspberry Pi, and that's a little bit about what Burns is talking about, okay? And I just haven't explored that, but I will. But I have to learn, this is based on a base system, and I have to know where their limits are, okay? Yes?
Will you interface with the SatNogs client?
That is not in the current. I'd love to talk to you if you know a need, okay? I mean, there's always version 2. Version 2 is already being worked on as far as futures. So at the moment it doesn't, just the basis of the system I started with. But talk to me this afternoon, okay?
This question is from Peter, MM9SQL in Scotland. He asks if it can communicate with any other applications passing frequency and satellite information for external logging programs, or if you have any plans to do that in the future, so that could pass the frequency and the satellite directly onto logging programs.
That came up yesterday, okay? And at the moment, there's no one single interface. There could be a way, if somebody really needed it, you can configure the radio to an SDR. That will be a published spec, EasyCom for the rotor, and you could do that. But I don't think that's what he's talking about. But I was having that discussion yesterday afternoon, and again, always version 2. I need something to do at midnight, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Good presentation. I happen to have the benefit of helping test this for a while. The thing I want to note is you showed support for SDR Sharp. That's almost relevant to Peter's question because in talking with Jim early on, I said, if I can't hang a SDR receiver out there and have it controlled along with my radio, that's kind of a non-starter. And so he did from early on built a really nice plug-in for SDR Sharp. And so it uses a virtual COM port. So he has an output via COM port.
Yeah,
where
right.
you just select the SDR. So I would suspect that would let somebody hook the info because he's passing to SDR Sharp, name of the satellite,
Right.
the frequency, the mode, and that may be it. But I know it wasn't done with logging in mind, but that's a very
Correct.
important interface
Yes.
to know that works really well so you can have a completely independent receiver. And it's pretty versatile. The other thing is the multiple session thing. You know, some of us are accustomed to running multiple radios or multiple rotors and SDR in the shack, and it accommodates that through more than one session at a time, because you can configure them completely independent of one another and control lots of different hardware. So I have in normal operation one set of things hooked up to an SDR receiver that's just running through a whole bunch of different satellites and, you know, kind of on a received telemetry mode, and then others actively tracking with rotors, you know, to either work the bird or specifically put some gain on a telemetry bird. So it's very versatile.
Yeah, the SDR plugin will be available on on the site when it comes up. Also, the SDR protocol will be published. So that's just a very simple protocol I put together, and we're going to publish that for anyone that wants to, you know, use it for their own benefit. In fact, it is written, it's just not yet up on the test website.
All right, thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, sir.